Hey everybody, this is Aubrey. I'm joined here with Alex. She's the founder of Optimum Joy Counseling here in Chicago. She's also my coworker and my sister. We carry a lot of roles together just in life and here at the practice. And she's going to talk a little bit about the process of starting a women-owned business, what that's been like professionally and personally, and some of that journey. So Alex, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. Honestly, I think we get to work together every single day, but I'm usually the one on the interviewing side, interviewing our staff, and you're very much so like behind the scenes. So I feel like this is kind of like a fun thing for us to be doing. So
It's fun. It flexes a little bit of a different muscle because I feel like we talk all the time, and this is also just kind of in a more inside look behind the scenes, which is something that I always enjoy. So just right off the get-go, going right to it, what was it just generally like way back at the beginnings starting Optimum Joy?
yeah, honestly, again, it's kind of like special that you're doing this interview because the formation of Optimum Joy actually happened like after a pretty intense period of burnout for me. I worked in community mental health, which I love. I love, love, love community mental health. For a variety of reasons. I just ended up being so burnt out, and I gave like a 6-week notice, didn't have any other job lined up. And I moved from the suburbs into Chicago, actually into Aubrey and Chase's second bedroom, which if you're from Chicago, you know that actually was just a 6x6 room with a twin mattress on the floor. So it was like really dire circumstances. But I think, maybe dire is too strong of a word, but I think that in that time, it just really actually helped me kind of like rest and get a little bit more creative around what I like even considered doing. And Aubrey, I think about you and Chase, how I would always just be like sitting there crunching numbers or be like, what about this? What about this? And I honestly think that like people in my life thought I was a little bit crazy or trying to do something that was like out of sorts. But yeah, I just think that the more I was able to kind of rest or get perspective, um, it was just something that I feel like actually flowed pretty naturally out of who I am and all that different stuff. And for me, it felt like a really big and brave thing to do. And it's kind of weird. It's pretty weird to have accomplished and started something at the, like when I was then the age of 25, and already kind of have what feels to me like for my own life, like something I would have considered to be like a life success. So it was probably the hardest and the easiest thing I've ever done in all my life. It was so hard, it was so easy. Yeah.
Well, I remember those days vividly. It was pretty special to be able to bear witness to some of those tougher beginnings. But yeah, it brings up a lot of memories. And,
Mhm.
I think women-owned businesses, offices, firms in general are still very much in the minority. So as a female entrepreneur, you face a number of challenges that are often difficult to even quantify. So I'm just curious if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I don't know if every single day I think looks a little different for me. And I think some days I'm a way more productive person than others. So really maybe I guess my like takeaway is to allow myself like some margin, some like room to really actually like do what I need to do to feel like really rested. I don't know. I'm sure that other like women business owners out there would really resonate with the fact of like feeling pretty weary. And I think that I often like carry like a tiredness. So having like a good amount of time at the front end of my day and a good amount of time at the back end of my day, um, just to really care for myself, whether it's like reading a book or watching a movie or going on a long walk or like hanging out with a friend or grabbing a drink, or it just feels like that's something where it's like I have the space to do whatever I need to do. And honestly, creating margin was like one of the biggest things for my sense of creativity. I feel like it really revived an ability to be creative. So
Yeah. And then on the flip side of that, what about being a woman has helped you in this process of creating a business?
I don't know if people really know this, but like you and I, Aubrey, we're two of four girls, like a no boy family. And my mom, she actually comes from a 6 girl family, no boys. So we're like a pretty matriarchal family. And I think that it's like all my cousins, all my sisters, all of us really kind of have this like industrious spirit, I think, among us as women. So um, I actually think just seeing that modeled, our mom was a business owner actually, and a very different type of business. But for me, I think just like seeing women do this thing, I never had the thought, oh, I'm a woman, I shouldn't do this, because I think that that was just like modeled by other women in my family.
Mm.
Um, and I think that that like really gave me a lot of confidence to do some of what it took to start Optimum Joy, which was um, a pretty crazy process at different points in times. But I think also, the more I come to understand about like masculine and feminine energy, and to realize that like some of that creative, intuitive, nurturing, it just doesn't fit really well with my role at Optimum Joy, as well as some of my more like masculine energy, which is like assertiveness or, like forward motion. But I think that like creativity and intuition and like nurture, I would say that those things I really enjoy about being a woman. So like women collective modeling for each other, and then some of these like innate, more feminine energy, as maybe like a union person would say, have really been important.
Yeah, for sure. And even just talking about some of that modeling or that more personal side of it, is there anything specifically that you experienced in life that either just like helped shape you? I mean, you spoke to that just a little bit, but even just kind of pushing on that, is there anything that shaped you to really be who you are and show up in this role?
Yeah. I'm sure that there's a million of them. Um, I'm 29 now, which is like not old and it's not young anymore. But it's like just old enough, I think, to have experienced a little bit of life. And, I'm not so sure that like everybody knows that when I was 17, 18-ish, I was actually excommunicated from my religious institution. You know that obviously because you like lived as my younger sister through it. But I I think that that was like such an important time for me because um I was literally put on like the outside, I think, of everything that defined me, and had to start to think through, who am I? What do I believe? What do I want like my life to align with? Just all these kind of like identity questions. And I think it gave me some of the like ability to stand up for like, oh no, this is actually what I believe, or like, I don't actually agree with this, just as I kind of like walked through that process. And, I'm still a person of faith today, and I really like draw so much from my faith, but that experience was pretty intense. Like to the point where like nobody touched me for like over 2 months, like physically nobody touched me, nobody would eat with me, just like pretty crazy stuff. um but like religious stuff aside, I just think that, wow, I actually had to grapple with like, who am I and what do I want to be my life.
Yeah, pushed to the furthest limits in some ways. Um, that's a huge one. And, as somebody who has really gotten to kind of walk beside you and have an inside look into, I would say, just a lot of the values that are at the critical center of, we're starting here and we're going to build this structure,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to, impact the work that we end up doing at Optimum Joy. There are more than just these few that I'm going to name, but can you specifically tell me about these three, which would be the generosity that I always hear you talk about, the education piece and how that quality of service, just a little bit about like what you believe about education and how you hold that here at Optimum Joy. And then lastly, the diversity piece. So it's generosity, education, diversity. Just because those are ones that I think really speak to me and encourage me. And hearing the behind the scenes or like the why of how you incorporate each of those into this practice that you built is something that has really informed and helped my perspective just as one person. And so I'm like, let's share with the world if you'd take some time and just speak about that.
That's a super kind thing to say, Obs. Maybe for other like business owners out there or really just people, I would encourage people to be a very values driven, like let their values drive their life. And these things are actually um just like really, I think actually pretty close to my core among like other things. But Optimum Joy is kind of a interesting thing because it feels like the whole process of starting it was in a way like it's something that is almost like birthed from me. It feels like my child in a way. So it reflects pretty closely, I think, some things that are near and dear to my heart. But I think that like, so if we start with education, I feel like my education changed my life. It expanded my view. It like gave me pictures of like the world. I am pro people should like always seek out education. It's part of, I'm like a learner. I would love to go back into academia, but like that for me liberated so much of who I am. And I think specifically within Optimum Joy, it's part of like excellence in service, that our clinicians who, you and I, Aubrey, take like a big hand in trying to like develop them in their career, but that our clinicians would continue to learn and grow for their own sake, to be passionate learners. But then also I think for the clients that they serve, the more they can learn and grow, the more that actually serves the people that they meet with. So that is, I've just experienced training, education is a thing that really liberated and inspired me and allows us to like care well for people. As far as diversity, I think that that's like a hot take right now. Like everybody is like leaning towards diversity and that's like super important. But I think that like how I would define it within Optimum Joy is that like it's really broad, meaning like age, race, gender, therapeutic technique, socioeconomic status, faith tradition, that there's like a million different things. Gender would be in there, but there's like a million different things that like uniquely make up who we are. And I personally, as a leader, think that the more diverse people are in the conversation, the more we actually have like an expanded perspective.
Really.
Yeah, so I just think that like I think that in a collective, you and I talk about this all the time, like collaboration, the collective. I always am like, oh yeah, the collective learning or collective listening, because I'm like, I think it's important for all these voices, yeah, to be there. So I just think that we go further together, and we actually go further when we're different. And it's been hard at Optimum Joy at different points in times, but I'm really proud of our team being like diverse in a multitude, I would actually say kind of like a multitude of ways. And I want to continue to do that because I think it allows us to uniquely serve a multitude of clients, and match them with somebody who feels like they're like able to best serve them. Whew. Lastly, I feel like, me, I'm a little long-winded. The generosity piece, I think it really, I haven't actually thought about this on a personal level for a long time, but I was just like thinking this morning how much I think, I'm a pretty restless person. I am always wanting to I'm always pulled by the future. What's next? Who am I going to be? What's life going to be like? But I was thinking this morning that I think my thankfulness or like gratitude for a lot of what's like come to me in my life has really kept me grounded. And I know that there are lots of like people or like institutions or even just like my faith that has like poured into me being like who I am thus far in life. And so it just feels like a really natural response to then like give something generously, because I just really actually believe I have like received generously. Um, and I think too, like our family values growing up, there's like probably a few things we could say, even a few things on the negative, but I would just say we really actually operated a lot out of generosity. And I just always want to make sure that we give back, whether it's like reduced fees, or training our clinical residents to actually grow and develop in their career, which is a gift to them, but also a gift to the community, and offering like reduced fee services, so um, yeah, all those things are just so incorporated, I think, in my personal life, my personal development.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
Um, Thanks. That's uh, every time that I get to hear a little bit of that background, it speaks life into me. So thanks for sharing that. And then just to kind of bring it all back, um, what is something about you that has helped you in this process that might also serve as a word of encouragement to other people, anyone, ladies everywhere out there in the world who have some of that entrepreneurial aspiration, entrepreneurial spirit, who have big dreams?
Yeah.
What's something about you that helped in that process that maybe you can share just in closing?
Well, I'm like, for all of the minorities out there, no matter how we qualify it, I'm like, we need you, to kind of like, if you're someone who's like a minority and entrepreneurial or just has something to offer the world, I would just encourage you not to be discouraged, because I think that there are some unique limitations or unique barriers or things to like kind of make it through that come with being a minority in a majority world. Um, but I think one of the people who I worked with at Optimum Joy, she used to say, Alex, she says, you have such a can-do attitude, like I'm always just kind of like, I'll hear something, I'll be like, of course we can do that. Like, yes, like it'll probably happen tomorrow, So I think that just a sense of like, I've got this, or like I can like continue to move it forward, and just like confidence that it's like, I think we do what we are able to do at the time. Um, and that's just like a confidence piece. Speaking of confidence, I was in the Adirondacks earlier, like at a different point in time, and my friend's dad, whose house we were staying at, he was joking around that someone in the family was never in doubt, not always correct. And
Wait,
that
wait,
is like,
not always correct.
yep, never in doubt, not always correct. I need like a mug or a t-shirt, because that I think is
Amazing.
like my motto for life, that it's like, I will just like push forward and I'll like speak something super confidently, and like I know exactly what I'm talking about, but like secrets out, I actually don't really know everything. I'm not always correct. So I think there's like confidence and like hey, let's like at least try it, just to like keep moving forward.
I am going to steal that from you because that's actually it's a nice way to boil down that thought of like probably this,
Yeah.
and let's just that's really funny.
I'm notorious. I literally have to say, after I'll make a statement like, Jenny will be there, but I'm really meaning it as a question. So I'll have to say, Jenny will be there. That's a question, because so much of my like communication style is like, here we go, so I just have
Yeah.
to, I have to watch myself sometimes, I would say.
Well, nice to end kind of on a light note. I'm going to absolutely steal that quote from you. And thanks for just taking the time to talk with me today and run through some of your experience of creating a woman-owned business, again, in Chicago, Optimum Joy Clinical Counseling. We're going to go ahead and sign off from here. So thanks so much for your time, Al.
Love you, Obs.
Love
Bye.
you too. Bye.